Subscribe to Infidelity Tales Lab for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. Chapter 1. The Call. Cameron Riley had always trusted his instincts. 15 years as a forensic accountant had taught him that numbers never lied. But people did, constantly, creatively, and often for the worst reasons imaginable. Tonight, standing in the hospital parking lot at 11:47 p.m., every instinct screamed that something was catastrophically wrong. The call had come 20 minutes earlier. "Mr. Riley? This is Tracy Ballard, night nurse on Pediatric Floor 3. You need to come to Memorial Hospital immediately. Please don't tell your wife. Come alone." Cameron had been in his home office, reviewing case files for a corporate fraud investigation. Madeline, his wife of 12 years, was already asleep. Their daughter Sophie had been admitted that morning for what doctors called routine tests: persistent stomach pain, unexplained bruising, night terrors that had worsened over the past 6 months. He'd taken the stairs 3 at a time to the 3rd floor. The pediatric ward was a ghost town, but yellow police tape blocked the corridor leading to Sophie's room. 2 uniformed officers stood guard. Detective Nathan Boyd, a man Cameron recognized from Financial Crimes Task Force they'd both worked, emerged from the restricted area. "Riley." Boyd's face was granite. "We need to talk. Conference room. Now." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Cameron followed Boyd down a side hallway. His mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. Car accident involving Madeline? No, she was home. Sophie's condition deteriorating? Then why police? Dr. Edward Hobbs was waiting in the conference room. A slight man in his 50s with trembling hands and the haunted eyes of someone who'd seen something they couldn't unsee. Nurse Ballard stood beside him, arms crossed, jaw set. "Mr. Riley," Dr. Hobbs began, then stopped. Started again. "During Sophie's physical examination this evening, we discovered evidence." "Evidence?" Cameron's voice was steady, but his heart hammered against his ribs. Tracy Ballard stepped forward. "I've been a pediatric nurse for 18 years. I've seen things that would break your heart, but I know the signs. Your daughter has injuries consistent with prolonged sexual abuse." The words hit Cameron like a sledgehammer to the chest. The room tilted. He gripped the table's edge, forcing himself to breathe, to think, to function. This was a crisis. He solved crises. That's what he did. "How long?" His voice came out strangled. "Based on scarring and the psychological evaluation we conducted," Dr. Hobbs said quietly, "we estimate 6 months to a year. Possibly longer. 6 months to a year." While Cameron had been working late. While Madeline had been taking Sophie to her parents' house every weekend. While they'd assumed the nightmares were just childhood anxiety. Detective Boyd opened a folder. "Mr. Riley, I need to ask you some difficult questions. We have to eliminate you as a suspect before. Ask whatever you need." Cameron's mind was already 3 steps ahead. "I want a polygraph. Blood test. Whatever proves it wasn't me. Then I want to know what you need from me to find who did this." Boyd studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "You travel for work?" "Frequently. I'm usually on site for corporate investigations 2 to 3 weeks a month. My wife Madeline keeps my travel schedule. She can provide documentation." "Where does Sophie spend most of her time when you're away?" "Home with Madeline, or my in-laws. Madeline's parents, Lowell and Geneva Chambers. They live about 20 minutes from us." Cameron paused. Sophie's been spending more weekends there recently. Madeline said her father loved having her visit. Something flickered across Boyd's face. The detective exchanged glances with Tracy Ballard. "What?" Cameron demanded. "What is it?" Nurse Ballard sat down across from him. "Mr. Riley, when we conducted Sophie's examination, she was initially unresponsive to questions. Dissociative. But when I asked if she felt safe at home, she said yes. When I asked if anyone had hurt her, she started crying and said, 'Grandpa says it's our special secret.'" The conference room walls seemed to close in. Lowell Chambers, Madeline's father, the man who'd walked his daughter down the aisle at their wedding, who'd held Sophie in the delivery room, tears streaming down his face, who'd insisted on those weekend visits, who'd built a playroom in his basement specifically for Sophie. "I need to see my daughter. She's sedated right now," Dr. Hobbs said. "We thought it best until... I need to see my daughter. Now." Boyd led him to Sophie's room. She looked impossibly small on the hospital bed, dark hair fanned across the pillow, monitors beeping softly. Cameron's little girl, who loved dinosaurs and hated broccoli, who still asked him to check her closet for monsters before bed. He'd been checking for the wrong monsters. Cameron pulled a chair beside her bed and took her small hand in his. "I'm here, sweetheart," he whispered. "Daddy's here, and I'm going to fix this. I promise you, I'm going to fix everything." Behind him, Detective Boyd's phone buzzed. Cameron heard him step into the hallway, heard the murmured conversation. When Boyd returned, his expression was carefully neutral. "Riley, we need to discuss next steps. Child Protective Services will be here in the morning. They'll want to interview Sophie and my wife." Cameron didn't look away from his daughter. "You'll need to interview Madeline." "Yes. She doesn't know. About her father." It wasn't a question. Cameron had spent 12 years reading Madeline's every expression, every mood. If she'd known, if she'd even suspected, but no. Madeline adored her father. Worshipped him. Always had. "Mr. Riley," Boyd said carefully, "in cases like this, it's not uncommon for family members to have been previous victims. If your wife, then she's repressed it completely." Cameron's jaw tightened, which means when she finds out about Sophie, it's going to destroy her. Or she knew and did nothing. Cameron's head snapped up. "My wife would never. I have to consider all possibilities. You understand that." Cameron understood. He understood that in the next 24 hours, his entire life would implode. His daughter was traumatized. His wife would be either devastated or complicit. His father-in-law was a monster. And nothing would ever be the same. But understanding didn't mean accepting. Cameron Riley had built a career on finding the truth hidden in numbers, on tracing money through complex webs of deception, on exposing secrets people thought they'd buried forever. Lowell Chambers had no idea what was coming. "Detective Boyd," Cameron said quietly, "I'm going to cooperate fully with your investigation. Whatever you need. But I need something from you." "What's that?" "Time. Before you arrest him. Before this becomes public." Cameron's eyes were ice cold. "I need to know everything. Who knew? Who helped? Who looked away? Because I promise you, this goes deeper than one sick old man." Boyd started to object, but Cameron cut him off. "You said yourself, family members are often previous victims. Madeline has a brother, Kirk. Her mother, Geneva, has been married to Lowell for 40 years. You think she didn't know?" Cameron's voice was deadly calm. "This is a family that keeps secrets, detective. And I'm very, very good at uncovering secrets. This is a police matter, Riley. You can't." "Can't what?" "Talk to my wife? Visit my in-laws? Ask questions?" Cameron stood. "I'm not talking about vigilante justice. I'm talking about being a father who wants to know exactly how many people failed his daughter. You run your investigation. I'll run mine. We'll compare notes." Boyd studied him for a long moment. 72 hours. That's all I can give you. After that, we're bringing Lowell Chambers in, and this becomes official. That's all I need. Chapter 2. The Mask. Cameron arrived home at 3 a.m. to find Madeline exactly where he'd left her. Asleep in their bedroom, her blonde hair spilled across the pillow, face peaceful in the moonlight filtering through the curtains. She looked younger than her 34 years, fragile somehow, like porcelain that might shatter at a touch. He stood in the doorway, watching her breathe, and felt a complex knot of emotions. Love, fury, grief, and underneath it all, a creeping suspicion he hated himself for having. Did she know? The question was poison, but he couldn't stop it from spreading. Madeline had grown up in the Chambers household. Lowell's daughter. If the abuse had been happening for 6 months to a year with Sophie, had it happened to Madeline too? And if so, how could she not recognize the signs? How could she keep sending Sophie to that house? Unless she did know. Unless she'd made peace with it somehow, rationalized it, buried it so deep she could pretend it wasn't happening. Cameron forced himself to move, to shower, to lie down beside his wife. When the alarm rang at 6:30 a.m., he was already awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind working through scenarios like chess moves. Madeline stirred, rolled toward him. "Morning," she murmured, kissing his shoulder. "You came to bed late." Case file kept me up. The lie came easily, too easily. How'd you sleep? Fine. I'm going to head to the hospital around 9 to check on Sophie. The doctor said they'd have test results by then. She sat up, stretched. I talked to my dad yesterday. He's worried about her. Wants a visit this weekend once she's home. Cameron's blood turned to ice. He kept his voice level. Maybe we should limit visitors for a while. Let her rest. Madeline frowned. Cameron, he's her grandfather. He adores her. I know. Cameron got out of bed, heading toward the bathroom before she could see his expression, just thinking she might need quiet time. In the shower, he let the scalding water pound against his shoulders and made his decision. He couldn't tell Madeline, not yet, if she was innocent. And God, he needed her to be innocent. Then the revelation would shatter her. She'd confront her father immediately, destroy any chance of building a complete case, possibly even warn him. And if she wasn't innocent, Cameron couldn't finish that thought. He'd have to lie to his wife, play the concerned husband, smile at family dinners, shake Lowell Chambers' hand while knowing exactly what that hand had done to Sophie. The rage that washed through him was white hot, but Cameron had learned long ago to channel anger into action. Emotion clouded judgment. He needed clarity. By the time he emerged from the bathroom, he'd composed his features into a mask of normalcy. Madeline was getting dressed, talking about her schedule for the day, a meeting with her book club, grocery shopping, then the hospital. I'll meet you there, Cameron said. I have a morning call with a client, but I should be done by 11. This was also a lie. His morning would be spent very differently. After Madeline left, Cameron sat in his home office and opened his laptop. 15 years of investigative work had taught him how to dig. He started with public records. Lowell Chambers, age 68, retired insurance executive, married to Geneva Chambers for 41 years. 2 children, Madeline, age 34, and Kirk, age 37. No criminal record. No red flags. A pillar of the community, according to his LinkedIn profile. Board member at First Methodist Church. Volunteer youth baseball coach for 10 years. Youth baseball coach. Cameron's hands clenched. He forced himself to keep typing. He pulled up property records next. The Chambers house had been the family for 3 generations. Before that, Lowell had lived in a house on Maple Street, owned by his parents until their deaths in 1998. Cameron made a note to check that address later. Then he started with social media. Geneva Chambers maintained an active Facebook presence, mostly photos of Sophie, family gatherings, church events. Cameron scrolled back through years of posts, looking for patterns. Sophie appeared regularly at the Chambers house starting about 18 months ago. Before that, visits seemed less frequent. 18 months, right around when the abuse likely started, according to Dr. Hobbs. What had changed 18 months ago? Cameron pulled up his own calendar from that period. He'd taken on the Morrison Industries case, a major fraud investigation that had required him to travel to Denver every week for 3 months. He'd been gone more than usual. Had Lowell been waiting for that opportunity? A text from Detective Boyd interrupted his thoughts. CPS interview with Sophie scheduled for 2 p.m. Thought you should know. Your wife will need to be present. Cameron typed back. I'll tell her. Keep me updated on anything else you find. He had 7 hours before that interview would blow his family apart. 7 hours to gather as much information as possible. Cameron opened a new browser window and typed in a name he'd seen on Geneva's Facebook friends list, Mike Cobb. Mike had gone to high school with Madeline and still lived in their hometown. He was also, according to his profile, a counselor at a youth community center. Cameron didn't believe in coincidences. He picked up his phone and dialed. Mike Cobb? This is Cameron Riley, Madeline's husband. I know this is out of the blue, but I was hoping we could meet for coffee this morning. There's something I need to ask you about Madeline's family. There was a long pause. Then, yeah, I think we should talk. How about the Starbucks on Henderson Street? Say 10 o'clock. I'll be there. Cameron hung up, staring at his phone. Mike hadn't asked why. Hadn't seemed surprised. Which meant Mike Cobb knew something about the Chambers family. And Cameron was about to find out what. Chapter 3. The First Thread. Mike Cobb was already at the Starbucks when Cameron arrived, sitting in a corner booth with 2 untouched coffees in front of him. He was a broad-shouldered man in his late 30s, with the wary eyes of someone who'd seen too much of humanity's dark side. Cameron, Mike stood, shook his hand. I ordered you a black coffee. Hope that's okay. It's fine. Thanks for meeting me. They sat. Mike pushed one of the cups across the table, but didn't drink from his own. Before you ask your questions, I need to ask you one. Is Sophie okay? Cameron's poker face slipped. How did you? Because you call me asking about Madeline's family, and in my line of work, that usually means something bad has happened to a kid. Mike's expression was grim, and because I've been waiting for this call for about 15 years. The words hung in the air between them. Tell me, Cameron said. Mike exhaled slowly. Madeline and I were friends in high school. Good friends. She was different back then. Anxious, jumpy. Wouldn't let anyone get too close. Senior year, she started having panic attacks. Bad ones. I found her in the school parking lot one day, hyperventilating, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. What happened? I got her calm enough to talk. She said she couldn't go home. That her father, Mike stopped, rubbed his face. She didn't give me details. Just said her father did things to her. That it had been happening for years. That her brother Kirk knew, but pretended he didn't. That her mother knew, but told her it was her fault for being tempting. Cameron felt sick. What did you do? I took her to the school counselor. Mrs. Patterson. She called CPS, reported it. Madeline gave a full statement, or started to, but then Lowell showed up with his lawyer. By the time they were done, Madeline was recanting everything, saying she'd made it up because she was angry about being grounded. The investigation was dropped. Ow! Cameron's voice was hard. How does a full statement just disappear? Lowell Chambers is a very connected man. Has been for decades. The DA at the time, Oscar Finch, went to college with Lowell. The CPS investigator, Sarah Martinez, her husband worked at the insurance company Lowell ran. I was 17 years old and didn't understand how power worked. By the time I realized what was happening, it was over. And Madeline never spoke to me again. Shut down completely. 6 months later, she left for college on the other side of the state. I heard she changed majors 3 times, went to therapy, met you. Mike finally picked up his coffee, took a long drink. I hope you were good for her. That maybe she'd found a way to move past it. She never told me. Any of it. Trauma works like that sometimes. The mind protects itself. Or, Mike hesitated. Or what? Or she convinced herself it didn't happen. That she really had made it up. That's what Lowell would have told her, over and over. You imagined it. You were confused. It was just normal affection. Gaslighting doesn't just make you doubt reality. It rewrites your memory. Cameron's hands were shaking. He set down his coffee before he spilled it. Sophie, my daughter. She's been spending weekends at their house. Lowell, you did the same thing to her. Mike's eyes closed. God, I'm so sorry. You said Madeline's brother Kirk knew. What about the mother? Geneva? Mike's laugh was bitter. Geneva Chambers is the kind of enabler who should be in prison herself. She knew. She always knew. But Lowell was her meal ticket, her status, her identity. Protecting him meant protecting herself. And Kirk was a victim too, for what I gathered. But he dealt with it differently, by becoming his father's lieutenant. Last I heard, he worked for Lowell's old company, follows in his footsteps. There's a whole cycle there, Cameron. Victims becoming perpetrators, enablers, or both. Cameron pulled out his phone, opened his notes app. I need names. Everyone who knew about the allegations 15 years ago. Everyone who helped cover it up. CPS workers, lawyers, anyone. Mike rattled off names while Cameron typed. Then he added, there was one other person you should know about. Joan Baxter. She worked as a secretary at Lowell's company back in the day. She tried to file a complaint about him, said he was inappropriate with young employees. She was fired within a week. Harassment settlement, NDA, the whole 9 yards. But she might talk to you. Do you have contact information? I can get it. Give me an hour. Mike leaned forward. Cameron, what are you planning? The police are investigating. They're going to arrest Lowell within 72 hours. That's not what I asked. Cameron met his eyes. I'm going to make sure everyone who hurt my daughter, everyone who knew and did nothing, everyone who helped cover this up, I'm going to make sure they all pay. The law will handle what it can handle. The rest. He let the sentence hang. Mike nodded slowly. If you need help, I know people. People who work with abuse survivors. People who understand how these family systems operate. People who wouldn't mind seeing someone like Lowell Chambers get what he deserves. I'll keep that in mind. They exchanged numbers. As Cameron stood to leave, Mike caught his arm. One more thing. Madeline. She's going to be devastated when she remembers. And she will remember. Trauma has a way of surfacing when you're not expecting it. Be gentle with her. None of this is her fault. I know, but as Cameron walked to his car, he couldn't shake the question that had been gnawing at him since last night. Did Madeline really forget? Or did she choose not to remember? And if she chose, did she choose for herself? Or for Sophie too? His phone buzzed. A text from Madeline. At the hospital. Where are you? Doctor says we need to talk. Cameron checked his watch. 11:30. The CPS interview was in 2.5 hours. Time to put on his mask again. He typed back. On my way. Traffic. Be there in 20. Then he made one more call. Detective Boyd? It's Riley. I need you to run background checks on 3 people. Geneva Chambers, Kurt Chambers, and a woman named Joan Baxter. I'll email you what I've found so far. And Boyd, I think this goes a lot deeper than one abuser. I think it's an entire system. I'm listening. The CPS investigation from 15 years ago. The one about Madeline. Someone made it disappear. I want to know who, and I want to know what they got in return. There was a pause. Then Boyd said, You're not just looking for justice for Sophie, are you? You're looking for everyone. Everyone, Cameron confirmed. And I'm going to find them. He hung up and drove toward the hospital, toward his devastated wife and traumatized daughter, toward a conversation that would change everything. The Chambers family had built their house on secrets and silence. Cameron Riley specialized in demolition. Chapter 4, Breaking Point. The hospital conference room felt smaller this time. Cameron sat beside Madeline, their hands clasped together on the table, while Dr. Hobbs and a woman from CPS, a stern-faced professional named Rhonda West, sat across from them. Detective Boyd stood by the door, his expression unreadable. Madeline had been confused when Cameron arrived, wondering why police were present for test results. She'd assumed it was about medication, maybe something serious but treatable. The innocence in her eyes had broken something in Cameron's chest. Dr. Hobbs cleared his throat. Mrs. Riley, the tests we ran on Sophie weren't just for stomach pain. Based on some concerning signs, we conducted a more thorough examination. What signs? Madeline's voice was tight. What are you talking about? Rhonda West took over, her tone professional but not unkind. Mrs. Riley, your daughter has been the victim of sexual abuse. We found physical evidence, and Sophie has confirmed this in her interviews with us. The color drained from Madeline's face. No, that's impossible. Sophie is always with me, or with Cameron, or, she stopped. Turned to Cameron. Tell them it's a mistake. Cameron's throat felt like sandpaper. Maddie, when Sophie did talk to us, Rhonda West continued gently. She mentioned that the abuse occurred during visits to her grandfather's house. Madeline stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. You're lying. My father would never. He loves Sophie. He's not. You're wrong. You're all wrong. Mrs. Riley, please sit down. Dr. Hobbs started to stand, but Madeline was already backing toward the door. No, I need to call my father. He'll explain. He'll tell you this is all. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. Cameron caught her wrist. Maddie, don't. Let go of me. She jerked away, and for a moment, Cameron saw something flicker in her eyes. Not just denial, but something deeper. Fear. Recognition. A door opening onto memories she'd locked away. Then it was gone, and she was dialing. Madeline. Cameron's voice was sharp enough to make her freeze. Look at me. Please. She did. Tears streamed down her face. I know this is impossible to hear, he said quietly. I know you can't believe it, but Sophie needs us right now. Both of us. Present and focused. Can you do that? Madeline's hand holding the phone trembled. He didn't. He couldn't have. Not my dad. Then we'll figure out the truth together. But first, we need to hear everything. Okay. After a long moment, Madeline nodded and sat back down. The phone clattered onto the table. Rhonda West continued the briefing. Sophie had disclosed repeated abuse over approximately 9 months. It had started with inappropriate touching, escalated gradually. Lowell had used manipulation, telling Sophie it was their special game, that she was a special girl, that mommy and daddy wouldn't understand. Classic grooming behavior. With each detail, Madeline seemed to shrink into herself. Cameron watched her carefully, saw the exact moment something cracked. Her breathing changed. Her eyes went distant. Mrs. Riley? Rhonda West leaned forward. Are you all right? The basement, Madeline whispered. He has a playroom in the basement. For Sophie. He built it last year. Her voice was hollow, mechanical. It has a lock. On the outside. Cameron's blood ran cold. Maddie, he said it was to keep her safe when he was upstairs, so she couldn't wander around and get hurt. Madeline's hands were in her lap, twisting together. He had the same playroom when I was little. Same lock. He said the same thing. The room went silent. Detective Boyd moved closer. Mrs. Riley, are you saying? I don't remember. The words came out fast, panicked. I don't. There are gaps. Times I can't recall. My mother said I had an overactive imagination, that I confused dreams with reality, that I made up stories for attention. She looked up at Cameron, and her eyes were the eyes of a terrified child. But there's this feeling I get when I'm in their house, like I can't breathe, like the walls are closing in. I thought it was just anxiety. I thought. She broke off, pressing her hands to her mouth. Cameron moved to her side, pulling her against his chest as she started to shake. Over her head, he met Detective Boyd's gaze. Boyd nodded slightly. They both knew what this meant. Madeline wasn't complicit. She was another victim, one who'd buried the trauma so deep she'd convinced herself it never happened. And in doing so, she'd unconsciously delivered her own daughter to the same monster. I need to see Sophie, Madeline said suddenly, pulling away from Cameron. Right now. I need to tell her I'm sorry. I need to. Mrs. Riley, Rhonda West interrupted. Sophie is very fragile right now. Dr. Hobbs believes she may benefit from seeing you, but needs to be carefully managed. We can't have an emotional. She's my daughter. Madeline's voice cracked. Please let me see her. Dr. Hobbs and Rhonda West exchanged glances. Finally, the doctor nodded. 5 minutes. But if Sophie shows any distress, you'll need to leave immediately. They led Madeline down the hall. Cameron started to follow, but Boyd caught his arm. Riley, we need to talk. Now. They stepped into an empty patient room. Boyd pulled out his phone, showed Cameron a series of photos, documents, financial records, property deeds. I've been digging while you were in that meeting, Boyd said. Your father-in-law? He's not just some sick old man. He's organized, methodical. That house has been in his family for 3 generations, and I'm finding reports, archived, mostly buried, of complaints going back to his father's era. Cameron's jaw clenched. How many? 6 different allegations over 40 years. Different children, different circumstances, but always the same pattern. Allegations made, investigations started, then mysteriously dropped. Money changes hands. Witnesses recant. Evidence disappears. Who helped him? That's the question, isn't it? Boyd swiped to another image, a network diagram he'd been building. The DA's office, CPS, local police, they all have people in Lowell's pocket. It's like a spider web. Touch one strand, and they all protect each other. Then we cut the whole web. Boyd studied him. This morning, you said you needed 72 hours. I'm thinking you've already got a plan. I do, but it requires Lowell thinking he's safe. Thinking this is just another problem he can make disappear like all the others. Cameron pulled out his own phone, showed Boyd his notes from the meeting with Mike Cobb. Madeline tried to report him in high school. It went nowhere because he had protection. I want to know exactly who provided that protection and what leverage he used. You're thinking blackmail? I'm thinking a man who's been getting away with this for 40 years has dirt on everyone who matters. Files, recordings, something. And I want to find it before we bring him in. Boyd's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. Speaking of which, Lowell Chambers just called his lawyer. Elias McGraw, one of the best defense attorneys in the state. He's already making noise about harassment, wrongful investigation, protecting his client's rights. He doesn't know about Sophie yet. No, but he will. Madeline's going to call her family. Actually, Cameron said slowly, she's not. Boyd raised an eyebrow. Cameron texted Madeline, don't call your parents yet. Please. I'll explain everything, but trust me for now. A moment later, his phone rang. Madeline. Cameron, I need to talk to my mother. She needs to know. Maddie, listen to me. If Geneva knows we're on a Lowell, what do you think happens? Silence. Then, she'll protect him. Like she always does. Yes. And evidence will disappear. Witnesses will change their stories. Just like last time. Cameron softened his voice. I need you to trust me. Give me 48 hours. Don't contact your family. Don't tell anyone what we know. Can you do that? Another long pause. What are you planning? To make sure he can't hurt anyone ever again. Not Sophie. Not you, not anyone. Cameron, do you trust me? Yes. The answer came without hesitation. Yes, I trust you. Then let me handle this my way. Stay with Sophie. Be her mother. Let me be the one who goes to war. He hung up and turned back to Boyd. We got our window. Lowell thinks he's safe because he's always been safe. Let's use that against him. Chapter 5. The Architect's Trap. At 6 p.m., Cameron sat in his home office, surrounded by 3 monitors, 2 burner phones, and enough coffee to fuel a small army. He'd sent Madeline back to the hospital to stay with Sophie overnight, partly for Sophie's comfort, partly because he needed to work without explaining every detail. The first call was to Joan Baxter, whose number Mike Cobb had provided. Ms. Baxter? My name is Cameron Riley. I'm calling about Lowell Chambers. A sharp intake of breath on the other end. I signed an NDA. I can't. Your NDA is void if we can prove it was used to cover up criminal activity. And I can prove exactly that. Cameron kept his voice steady. But I'm not calling to violate your agreement. I'm calling to offer you the chance to help put Lowell Chambers in prison for the rest of his life. Silence. Then what do you need? Everything you remember. Names, dates, anyone else who filed complaints. And most importantly, do you know if Lowell kept files on the people who helped him? Of course he did. Joanne's laugh was bitter. That's how he stayed protected. He had dirt on everyone. The DA, his boss at the company, the CPS director. I overheard him on the phone once, talking about insurance. Said he had records in a safe deposit box at First National Bank, account number 847-2219. I wrote it down at the time because I thought I might need it someday. Cameron scribbled the information. Did you ever see what was in it? No, but I heard enough to know it was bad. Photos of a DA with prostitutes. Financial records showing embezzlement by the company VP. Medical records he shouldn't have had. Lowell was a collector, Mr. Riley. He collected secrets like some people collect stamps. And he used them every single time someone got close to exposing him. Cameron thanked her and hung up. The safe deposit box was leverage, but he'd need legal authority to access it, which meant either a warrant, unlikely without already having concrete evidence, or finding another way in. His phone buzzed. A text from Detective Boyd found the old CPS investigator for Madeline's case. Sarah Martinez. She's willing to talk. Meeting her at 8 p.m. Want to join? Cameron replied. Send me the address. He had 90 minutes. Time to make another call. Kirk Chambers answered on the third ring. Hello. Kirk, it's Cameron. Cameron Riley. Oh, hey. Haven't heard from you in a while. Everything okay? Cameron forced a pleasant tone. Yeah. Actually, I wanted to pick your brain about something. You're in insurance now, right? Like your dad was. Sure am. Following in the old man's footsteps. Kirk sounded proud. Why? You looking for a better policy? Actually, I'm working on a case, corporate fraud investigation. There's an insurance angle I can't quite figure out. Would you have time to meet tomorrow? Maybe we could grab lunch and I could ask some questions. Absolutely. I'm always happy to help family. How about that steakhouse on 5th Street? Say noon. Perfect. Thanks, Kirk. Cameron hung up and allowed himself a cold smile. Kirk had no idea he'd just walked into a trap. The meeting would serve 2 purposes. Keep Kirk away from Lowell during a critical window, and give Cameron a chance to read the man face to face, to see if Kirk was just another victim who'd chosen the wrong path or a willing accomplice. Either way, Kirk's usefulness will be determined by what Cameron learned tonight from Sarah Martinez. The diner where Boyd had arranged the meeting was nearly empty. Sarah Martinez sat in a corner booth, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and the slumped shoulders of someone carrying years of regret. Mr. Riley. She didn't extend her hand. Detective Boyd explained the situation. I'm sorry about your daughter. Cameron slid into the booth across from her. Tell me about Madeline's case. Sarah wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. I was fresh at CPS, idealistic, thought I could make a difference. When Madeline Chambers came forward with allegations against her father, I believed her. Everything she described, the pattern, the grooming, the way her family dismissed her concerns, it was textbook. I documented everything, built what I thought was an airtight case. What happened? Lowell Chambers happened. Sarah's voice hardened. He showed up with his lawyer, Elias McGraw, same one he's using now, and within 24 hours, everything fell apart. My supervisor, Director Aaron Miner, called me into his office, said the case was being reassessed, that Madeline had a history of lying, that her school counselor said she was prone to exaggeration, none of which was true, none of it. But Director Miner had somehow obtained school records that had been altered to support that narrative. Medical records showing Madeline had been treated for attention-seeking behavior. A statement from Geneva Chambers saying Madeline was angry about being punished and was retaliating against her father. Boyd leaned forward. Who altered the records? I don't know, but I know they were fake because I'd already reviewed the originals. Someone with access to school and medical databases changed them overnight. Cameron's mind raced. That takes serious resources, computer expertise, inside access, or money, Sarah said flatly. Enough money to pay someone with those skills. Did Director Miner benefit financially? Sarah pulled out her phone, showed them photos of documents. 6 months after Madeline's case was closed, Aaron Miner bought a vacation home in Florida. Cash purchase, $380,000. I checked his salary records. There's no way he could afford that on what CPS paid. Cameron photographed the images. Do you still work for CPS? I left 5 years ago. Couldn't stomach it anymore. Watching kids slip through the cracks because someone had enough money or power to make cases disappear. Sarah looked directly at Cameron. If you're planning to go after Lowell Chambers, really go after him, you need to understand what you're up against. He's not just one abuser. He's the center of a network. The DA, the police chief, the head of CPS, at least 2 family court judges. They've all benefited from looking the other way. Then we don't go after just him, Cameron said quietly. We go after all of them. Boyd's phone rang. He stepped away to answer it, came back looking grim. That was the lab. DNA results from Sophie's examination are back. Conclusive match to Lowell Chambers. Sarah closed her eyes. Dear God, we need to move now, Boyd said to Cameron. With physical evidence, I can get a warrant for his arrest by morning. No, Cameron stood. Not yet. If we arrest him now, he makes one phone call and everyone in his network activates. Evidence disappears. Witnesses vanish. We get him, maybe, but everyone else walks. So what do you suggest? Cameron turned to Sarah. You said Director Miner still has that vacation home. As far as I know, and the DA for Madeline's case, Oscar Finch, he's still practicing law, right? Semi-retired, but yeah, has a private practice now. Cameron looked at Boyd. We need to put surveillance on everyone in the network. Phones, emails, movements. Lowell's going to reach out to them when he realizes we're closing in. When he does, we'll have evidence of conspiracy to obstruct justice, tampering with evidence, all of it. Boyd hesitated. That's a lot of resources. I need approval. Then get it. Because right now, Lowell thinks he's untouchable. The moment we arrest him, that changes. But if we make him panic first, if we make him think he needs to activate his insurance policy, he'll lead us straight to everyone involved. How do we make him panic without tipping him off? Cameron smiled, a smile with no warmth in it. Leave that to me. I'm having lunch with his son tomorrow. Time to rattle some cages. Chapter 6, The House of Cards. Cameron arrived at the steakhouse 15 minutes early, securing a booth with a clear view of the entrance. He'd barely slept, spending the night reviewing everything he'd learned, mapping connections, planning his next moves like a chess grandmaster, thinking 10 steps ahead. Kirk Chambers walked in at noon precisely, dressed in an expensive suit that probably cost more than Cameron spent on clothes in a year. He had his father's build, tall, broad-shouldered, but there was a softness to him that Lowell lacked. A weakness. Cameron. Kirk's handshake was firm, his smile genuine. Thanks for meeting me. How's Madeline? And Sophie? They're good. The lie came easily now. Sophie's still in the hospital, but the doctors are optimistic. Oh, I didn't realize she was hospitalized. Madeline didn't mention. It's just precautionary. You know how these things go. Cameron opened his menu. How's work treating you? They made small talk through ordering, through the arrival of drinks. Cameron waited until their food came before shifting gears. Kirk, can I ask you something personal? Sure, shoot. Growing up with your father, was he strict? Kirk's expression flickered. Strict? Yeah, I guess. Dad had high expectations. Wanted us to be successful, make the family proud. Why do you ask? I'm just trying to understand family dynamics. Madeline doesn't talk much about her childhood. Madeline's relationship with Dad has always been complicated. Kirk cut into his steak with more force than necessary. She was his favorite when we were kids. Then they had some kind of falling out in high school. She wouldn't tell me what happened, just left for college and barely came home after that. It hurt Dad, honestly. He always said he didn't understand what he'd done wrong. Cameron watched Kirk's face carefully. The man believed what he was saying, or had convinced himself to believe it. And you? You two were close. Dad and me? Kirk shrugged. He was harder on me. Said boys needed discipline, that he was preparing me for the real world. Looking back, I think he was just old-fashioned. You know how that generation is. Discipline how? Oh, the usual. Chores, early curfews, consequences for bad grades. He never hit us or anything like that. Kirk paused. Well, not me. Madeline might have been different. Girls got different rules. Cameron's grip on his fork tightened. Different how? Just, Dad was more protective of her. Wanted to know where she was, who she was with. Made her spend time with him on weekends, even when she wanted to be with friends. Mom used to say it was because Madeline reminded him of his mother, who died when he was young. That he was just trying to preserve that connection. Or control it, Cameron thought. Aloud, he said, Kirk, I need to tell you something. And I need you to hear me out before you react. Kirk set down his fork. Okay. Sophie's tests at the hospital. They weren't for stomach pain. They found evidence of sexual abuse. Cameron paused, letting it sink in. The DNA matches your father. Kirk's face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, disbelief, anger. That's insane. Dad would never. You're saying this because of whatever happened with Madeline in high school. But that was all a misunderstanding. She admitted she made it up. She didn't make it up. She was forced to recant. Cameron pulled out his phone, showed Kirk the documents Sarah Martinez had provided. This is the original CPS report. Before it was altered, Kirk stared at the screen, his face draining of color. This can't be real. It is. And I need to know, did you know? Did you ever suspect? No. Kirk pushed back from the table, stood up. You're lying. You're trying to what? Frame him? Destroy the family? I don't know what kind of game you're playing. Kirk, sit down. Cameron's voice was steel. You want to walk out of here? Fine. But then you're an accomplice. Because if you knew and did nothing, that makes you complicit. But if you genuinely didn't know, if you were another one of his victims in a different way, then you have a choice right now. You can help us, or you can go down with him. Kirk sat slowly, his hands shaking. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. But you suspected something was wrong with Madeline. You said she was his favorite, then suddenly she wasn't. You said she tried to report something in high school. You knew something happened. I thought. Kirk's voice cracked. I thought it was just teenage drama. Mom said Madeline was going through a phase that she was acting out. Dad said the same thing. I was 20 years old, started college, I didn't question it. I should have, but I didn't. Cameron leaned forward. Kirk, I'm going to bring down your father. And everyone who helped him. The question is whether you're going to help me, or whether you're going to be collateral damage. What do you want from me? Information. Your father keeps records, insurance files. Do you know where they are? Kirk was silent for a long moment. Then, there's a safe in his study. Combination is Mom's birthday, August 14th, 58. I've seen him put documents in there, but I never looked at what they were. What about a safe deposit box? Yeah, at First National. But I don't have access to that. Does your mother? Kirk nodded slowly. She's on the account. Dad set it up years ago. Said it was for important family documents. Cameron sat back, his mind racing. Geneva Chambers was the key. If they could get her to turn on Lowell to access that safe deposit box, they'd have everything they needed to dismantle the entire network. But Geneva had spent 40 years protecting Lowell. Convincing her to betray him would take something more than evidence. It would take destroying her carefully constructed reality. Kirk, I need you to do something for me. Can you call your mother? Ask her to meet you somewhere public? Tell her you need to talk about family finances or something neutral. Why? Because someone needs to tell her the truth about what her husband has been doing. And it needs to come from her son. Kirk looked at Cameron with haunted eyes. This is going to destroy her. Your father already destroyed her. We're just making her see it. 2 hours later, Cameron and Kirk sat across from Geneva Chambers in a quiet park. She was a small woman in her 60s, perfectly coiffed and dressed, every inch the respectable matriarch. But her eyes were sharp, calculating. Kirk, why did you insist on this meeting? And why is Cameron here? Kirk looked at Cameron, who nodded. Mom, we need to talk about Dad. About what he's done. Geneva's expression didn't change. What your father's done is build a successful life for this family. If you're going to criticize him, he raped Madeline when she was a teenager. The words came out in a rush. And he's been raping Sophie. We have DNA evidence, medical reports, everything. Geneva stood up. I won't listen to this. Your sister was a troubled girl who lied for attention, and I won't have you. Sit down, Mrs. Chambers. Cameron's voice was quiet but carried steel. Because what your son is telling you is the truth. And what happens next depends on whether you continue to protect a predator or whether you finally do the right thing. Geneva remained standing, but something in her posture changed. What do you want from me? The safe deposit box. Access to the files Lowell keeps there. Her face went white. You don't understand what those files contain. The people they implicate. If those come out, then a lot of powerful people go to prison alongside your husband. Good. It will destroy everything. Our reputation, the family. Your family is already destroyed. Cameron stood to face her. Madeline is in a hospital right now, trying to explain to Sophie that the abuse wasn't her fault while simultaneously remembering that it happened to her too. Kurt just found out his entire childhood was a lie. And Sophie is 10 years old, and she'll carry this with her forever. Geneva's hands were shaking. I didn't know about Sophie, but you knew about Madeline. She didn't deny it. The silence was answer enough. You have 48 hours to make a choice, Cameron continued. You can access that safe deposit box, turn over the contents to the police, and testify against everyone involved. In exchange, Detective Boyd can recommend leniency. Or you can stand by your husband, and when this all comes crashing down, and it will, you'll go down with him as an accessory. Geneva sank back onto the bench. He'll kill me. If I betray him, Lowell will. Lowell is going to be in police custody by Monday morning. The only question is whether he's going alone or taking you with him. Kirk moved to his mother's side. Mom, please. Think about Madeline. Think about Sophie. They need you to do the right thing. Geneva covered her face with her hands. For a long moment, she sat there, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red but clear. I'll need protection. Witness protection, or something like it. I'll arrange it, Cameron said. And I want immunity. Full immunity. I'll talk to the DA. Geneva pulled a key from her purse. This is for the safe deposit box. Account 847-2219 at First National Bank. There are 3 boxes under that account number. Box A has financial records. Box B has medical files, photographs, recordings. Box C has... She stopped, swallowed hard. Box C has videos. Of children, including Madeline. Cameron felt his stomach turn. Beside him, Kirk made a strangled sound. How long have you known this existed? Cameron asked. 30 years. Geneva's voice was barely a whisper. I found a first box a few months after we married. He caught me looking, told me if I ever left him, if I ever spoke about it, he'd release everything and claim I was involved. that I'd go to prison too. So I stayed. And I pretended. And I convinced myself it was the only way to protect our children. You didn't protect them. You fed them to him. Geneva flinched as if struck. I know. God help me, I know. Cameron took the key. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., you'll meet Detective Boyd at the bank. You'll access all 3 boxes and turn everything over. Then you'll give a full statement about everyone Lowell paid off, everyone who helped him, everything you know. And then you'll have to live with what you've done. Every single day for the rest of your life. Geneva nodded, tears streaming down her face. Kirk put his arm around her, looking years older than he had that morning. Cameron walked away, the key burning a hole in his pocket. Tomorrow, the house of cards would collapse. But tonight, he had one more visit to make. It was time to look Lowell Chambers in the eye. Chapter 7. Face to Face. Cameron arrived at the Chambers house at 7 p.m. after calling ahead to make sure Lowell was home. The house looked exactly as it always had, a pristine colonial with manicured lawns, flower boxes in the windows, the picture of suburban respectability. Evil didn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looked like a nice house in a good neighborhood. Lowell answered the door himself, smiling warmly. Cameron, what a pleasant surprise. Come in, come in. Is everything all right? Geneva said Kirk called some kind of family meeting earlier. Cameron stepped inside, his hands in his pockets to keep them from forming fists. We need to talk. Alone. Of course. Geneva's at her book club anyway. Let's go to my study. Lowell led the way down the hall, past family photos on the walls. Madeline and Kirk at various ages, smiling obediently at the camera. Sophie's picture had a place of honor on a side table. The study was exactly what Cameron expected. Leather chairs, mahogany desk, walls lined with books and awards. Lowell settled into his chair behind the desk, gesturing for Cameron to sit. Cameron remained standing. I'll make this simple, Cameron said. I know what you did to Sophie. I know what you did to Madeline. I know about the safe deposit boxes, the payoffs, the network of people you've corrupted to protect yourself. And I know it all ends tomorrow. Lowell's expression didn't change for a long moment. Then he smiled, a cold, calculated smile that held no warmth. I see. And you came here to, what? Threaten me? How very dramatic. I came here to look you in the eye, to see if there's any shred of humanity left in you. Humanity. Lowell leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. That's an interesting word, coming from you. Tell me, Cameron, do you know what your biggest weakness is? I wasn't aware we were having that kind of conversation. Your weakness is that you see the world in black and white, good and evil, victims and villains. It makes you predictable. Lowell stood, walked to the window. You think you're the first person to threaten me? To claim they'll expose everything? I've been handling people like you for 40 years. Not like me. Lowell turned. No, let me tell you what's going to happen. You'll go to the police with your so-called evidence. My lawyer will tear it apart. Sophie's testimony? The traumatized words of a confused child who loves her grandfather and is being manipulated by her father. Madeline's recovered memories? Notoriously unreliable, especially when she already recanted once as a teenager. Your wife has a history of mental instability. I have the medical records to prove it. Those records are fake. Can you prove that in court? Beyond a reasonable doubt. Lowell's smile widened. I've been building defenses for decades, Cameron. Every possible attack, every angle, I've planned for it. The people who could testify against me, they're all complicit themselves. They'll never risk their own necks. Geneva is turning over the safe deposit boxes tomorrow. For the first time, something flickered in Lowell's eyes. Surprise, quickly masked. Geneva would never betray me. She already has. Kirk, too. Your entire family is done protecting you. Then they'll go down with me. Those boxes implicate Geneva. She knew everything, helped facilitate everything. Kirk, too, whether he admits it or not. You think you're saving your family? You're destroying them. Cameron stepped closer. Here's what you don't understand, Lowell. I don't care about you. You're already finished. What I care about is making sure everyone like you, everyone who helped you, everyone who looked away, they all face consequences. And unlike you, I don't make threats. I deliver results. Big words from a man who's about to lose everything. Lowell walked back to his desk, opened a drawer. Cameron tensed, but Lowell only pulled out a file folder. Do you know what this is? It's a dossier on you. Your finances, your work history, your marriage. Did you know your wife has been seeing a therapist for the past 2 years? Depression, anxiety, trauma responses she couldn't explain. The therapist's notes are quite detailed. Those are protected by doctor-patient privilege. Nothing is truly protected if you know the right people to ask. Lowell tossed the file on the desk. I could destroy your career with a few phone calls. Plant evidence of financial impropriety. Have you investigated for fraud? Your precious moral high ground won't matter when you're fighting to stay out of prison yourself. Cameron picked up the file, flipped through it. Then he smiled, a genuine smile that made Lowell's expression falter. You're bluffing. You've already played this card too many times. The people you've bought, the favors you've called in, they're all documented in those safe deposit boxes, which means they're all about to be exposed. Nobody's going to risk helping you now. Your network is done. You can't. Already did. Right now, Detective Boyd has surveillance on every person in your corrupt little web. The DA, the CPS director, the judges, the lawyers, everyone. The moment you make a call, the moment you try to activate your insurance policy, you prove conspiracy. You prove obstruction of justice. You prove everything we need to put all of you away for the rest of your lives. Lowell's hands clenched on the desk. You're making a mistake. No, you made the mistake. You hurt my daughter. You hurt my wife. And you thought you'd get away with it because you always have. Cameron leaned over the desk, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. But I'm not the police. I'm not CPS. I'm not someone you can buy or threaten. I'm a father. And I'm going to watch you burn. Get out of my house. Gladly. Enjoy your last night of freedom, Lowell. Because tomorrow morning, it all ends. Cameron walked out, leaving Lowell standing in his study, surrounded by his awards and his secrets and his crumbling kingdom. Outside, Cameron sat in his car for a moment, hands shaking with adrenaline and rage. His phone buzzed. Detective Boyd. Lowell just made 7 phone calls in 3 minutes. We're recording everything. This is it. Cameron typed back. Good. I'll see you at the bank tomorrow morning. Bring backup. Lots of backup. Then he called Madeline. She answered on the first ring. Cameron? Are you okay? I'm fine. I just had a conversation with your father. You what? Cameron? That was dangerous. He could have. He didn't. And tomorrow, this is all over. How's Sophie? Sleeping. She asked about you. Madeline's voice softened. She wants her daddy. I'll be there in 20 minutes. We're going to get through this, Maddie. All of us. Together. I know. Because you won't let us fall. Cameron closed his eyes, feeling the weight of those words. The trust. The faith. The responsibility. Never, he promised. I will never let you fall. Chapter 8. The Collapse. The next morning, Cameron stood outside First National Bank with Detective Boyd for uniformed officers and 2 FBI agents Boyd had pulled in. At 9 a.m. exactly, Geneva Chambers arrived, looking like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Are you ready? Cameron asked. Geneva nodded mutely and walked into the bank. The manager, a nervous man named Billy Camp, had been briefed on the situation and led them to the vault. Geneva's hands shook as she used the key to access box 847-2219A. The box was full of financial documents, ledgers showing payments to dozens of people over the years. CPS Director Aaron Miner, $50,000 deposited 6 months after Madeline's case was closed. DA Oscar Finch, $75,000, along with photos of him with a prostitute at a hotel. Judge Merle Vance, $100,000 and records of prescription drug use obtained illegally. The list went on. 37 people, all told, who'd taken money or favors from Lowell Chambers in exchange for making problems disappear. Box B contained what Geneva had described: medical files, photographs, recordings. Evidence of abuse going back 40 years, including files on Madeline, on Sophie, on at least a dozen other children whose names Cameron didn't recognize. One of the FBI agents had to step outside. He came back pale and shaking. Boxy was worse. Much worse. Geneva refused to even look as the FBI agents cataloged the contents. Videos meticulously labeled and dated. Cameron saw Madeline's name and felt bile rise in his throat. "We have enough," Boyd said quietly. "More than enough." Cameron nodded. "Then let's finish this." The arrest happened at noon. 6 police cars descended on the Chambers house, sirens blazing. Lowell answered the door in his bathrobe, coffee in hand, and for just a moment, his mask slipped. Cameron saw raw fear in his eyes. "Lowell Chambers," Boyd said, "you're under arrest for multiple counts of child sexual abuse, possession of child pornography, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to commit witness tampering." As they read him his rights and cuffed him, Lowell's eyes found Cameron in the crowd. "This isn't over," he hissed. "I have resources you can't imagine." "Had," Cameron corrected. "You had resources, but we seized all your accounts this morning. Froze every asset." "Your lawyer? Elias McGraw? He's being arrested right now for helping you obstruct justice. Your network is finished." Lowell's face contorted with rage. "You've destroyed everything." "No, you destroyed everything. I'm just making sure everyone knows it." They led Lowell away. Cameron watched the police car drive off, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. Boyd approached him. "We're moving on the others now. Coordinated arrests across the city. By night, everyone in that ledger will be in custody." "What about Geneva?" "Her lawyer is negotiating a plea deal. Full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. She'll do time, but not as much as she deserves." Boyd paused. "Kirk is cooperating too. He's devastated, but he's helping us identify other potential victims." Cameron nodded. "And Sophie?" "The DA is prioritizing her case. With the physical evidence and Lowell's own recordings, we don't even need her to testify. She won't have to relive it in court." Relief washed over Cameron. "Thank you. For everything. Thank you. Cases like this, they're why I became a cop. To protect kids. To stop monsters." Boyd extended his hand. "You're a good father, Riley. Your daughter is lucky to have you." Cameron shook his hand, then drove to the hospital. Madeline met him in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. "It's really over?" she asked. "It's over." She collapsed against him, sobbing. Cameron held her while she cried, while she raged, while she grieved for the childhood stolen from her and nearly stolen from their daughter. "I'm so sorry," she kept saying. "I should have remembered. I should have known. This isn't your fault. None of it is your fault. But I took her there. I let her go to that house. I practically handed her to him." "Maddie, stop." Cameron pulled back, looked her in the eyes. "He manipulated you. That's what abusers do. They make you doubt yourself, make you forget, make you complicit without your knowledge. But you're a victim, not a villain. And now you're a survivor. We both are. Our whole family is." Madeline wiped her eyes. "Sophie wants to see you." Cameron walked into Sophie's room. His daughter looked small in the hospital bed, but her eyes were clearer than they'd been in months. When she saw him, she smiled. "Daddy." Cameron sat beside her, took her hand. "Hey, sweetheart. How are you feeling?" "Better. The doctor said I can go home soon." She paused. "Mommy told me about Grandpa, that he's going to jail." "That's right. Good." Sophie's voice was firm, stronger than Cameron expected. "He hurt me, and the nurse said that's not allowed. That nobody's allowed to hurt kids." "That's exactly right. And Grandpa is going to be punished for what he did. He can never hurt you again. Or anyone else. Or anyone else." Sophie nodded, satisfied. Then she looked up at Cameron with those big, trusting eyes. "Daddy, when we go home, can we maybe not go to Grandpa's house anymore?" Cameron felt his heart break and mend simultaneously. "We're never going back to that house, sweetheart. I promise." "Okay." Sophie yawned. "I'm tired." "Then sleep. I'll be right here." "You promise?" "I promise. I'm not going anywhere." Sophie closed her eyes, still holding his hand. Within minutes, she was asleep. Madeline stood in the doorway, watching. "She's going to be okay, isn't she?" "She's going to be better than okay," Cameron said. "Because she knows we believe her. She knows we protected her. And that's more than either of us had." Madeline came to sit beside him. "What happens now?" "Now?" Cameron looked at his sleeping daughter, his traumatized wife, his shattered family that was somehow still standing. "Now we heal. Together. And we make sure this never happens to anyone else." "How?" Cameron smiled. A real smile this time, warm and determined. I've been thinking about that. Sarah Martinez, the CPS investigator, she wants to start a nonprofit for abuse survivors. I'm going to help fund it. Mike Cobb wants to expand his counseling center. I'm going to help with that too. And I'm going to use my skills, my investigative skills, to help other families like ours find justice. That's going to take a lot of time. I have time. I'm cutting back my travel, taking only local cases for the next few years. My family comes first. Always. Madeline leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you, Cameron Riley. I love you too. Both of you. More than anything. They sat there in the quiet hospital room, two broken people holding each other together, while their daughter slept peacefully for the first time in months. Outside, the sun was setting. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, therapy, court dates, rebuilding trust. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, Cameron Riley felt hope. The monster was caged. The family was safe. And the future, however difficult, belonged to them again. Chapter 9. New Foundations. 6 months later, Cameron stood in the parking lot of the New Horizons Center for Childhood Trauma Recovery, watching volunteers paint the building's exterior. The center had opened 3 weeks ago, funded partially by Cameron's own savings and partially by seized assets from Lowell Chambers estate. Madeline worked inside as a peer counselor, helping other survivors navigate their own healing journeys. It had been her idea, her way of transforming her pain into purpose. Cameron had never been prouder. His phone rang. Detective Boyd. Riley. Thought you'd want to know. The trial concluded this morning. Guilty on all counts. Cameron exhaled slowly. Sentencing. Life without parole. Plus another 60 years for the conspiracy charges. Boyd paused. Lowell tried to make a statement. Said he was a victim of circumstance, that everyone had misunderstood his relationship with the children. The judge shut him down, told him he'd heard enough lies. Good. The others are falling like dominoes, too. D.A. Finch got 15 years. Aaron Miner got 12. Judge Vance was disbarred and is facing 10 years. Even Elias McGraw is looking at 5 years for obstruction. And Geneva? 4 years, reduced from 20 because of her cooperation. Kirk got probation and mandatory therapy. He's been helping us identify other victims. There were 11 in total, spanning 3 decades. 11 children. 11 families destroyed. Cameron closed his eyes, feeling the weight of those numbers. How many are getting justice, he asked. All of them. Every single case is being prosecuted. You did this, Riley. You brought down an entire network of corruption. We did it. All of us. After hanging up, Cameron walked inside the center. The lobby was bright and welcoming, designed to be the opposite of institutional. Mike Cobb was there, talking with a group of teenagers. Sarah Martinez ran the administrative side, ensuring every child who came through their doors received the support they needed. Cameron found Madeline in one of the therapy rooms, sitting across from a young woman who looked barely 18. When she saw him, Madeline wrapped up the session and came out. That was the 9th victim, she said quietly. She's been in therapy for years, but never connected her trauma to Lowell. When the news broke, everything clicked. How is she? Angry, scared, relieved, all of it. Madeline took Cameron's hand. But she's talking now. That's progress. They walked outside together. In the courtyard, Sophie played with other children, a supervised playgroup for kids in recovery. She was laughing, genuinely laughing, something Cameron had worried he'd never hear again. Dr. Hobbs says she's doing remarkably well, Madeline said, reading his mind. The nightmares are down to once or twice a week. She's sleeping better, still processing, but healing. And you? Madeline considered the question. I'm getting there. Some days are harder than others. I remember more now, fragments, pieces. My therapist says that's normal, that trauma reveals itself when you're ready to handle it. She squeezed his hand. But I have you. I have Sophie. I have purpose. That helps. Cameron pulled her close. I'm proud of you. You know that, right? What you're doing here, helping others, it's incredible. I learned from the best. She smiled up at him. You taught me that trauma doesn't have to be the end of the story. That we can fight back. That we can win. We did win. Together. A car pulled into the parking lot. Kurt Chambers got out, looking hesitant. He'd been volunteering at the center for the past month, his own form of penance and healing. Madeline had struggled with forgiving him at first, but therapy had helped them both understand that Kirk was another victim of Lowell's manipulation. Cameron, Maddie, Kirk approached. The paint supplies just arrived. Where should I? Storage shed around back, Cameron said. Thanks for helping today. It's the least I can do. Kirk paused. I talked to Mom this morning. Prison is hard on her. It should be, Madeline said, but not unkindly. What she did, what she didn't do, those were choices. I know. I'm not making excuses. Just, she asked about Sophie. If there was any chance. No. Cameron's voice was firm. Sophie knows her grandmother failed her. When she's older, if she wants contact, that'll be her decision. But not now. Kirk nodded. Understand. I'll tell her. After he walked away, Madeline sighed. Do you think he'll ever fully recover? I think he's trying. That's all any of us can do. That evening, Cameron tucked Sophie into bed in her new room. They'd moved houses 3 months ago, a fresh start, away from memories of the old neighborhood and proximity to the Chambers property. The new house was smaller but filled with light, and Sophie had decorated her room with dinosaur posters and glow-in-the-dark stars. Daddy, Sophie said as he pulled the covers up. Yes, sweetheart. At the center today, one of the other kids asked me if I was sad all the time. About what happened. Cameron's heart clenched. What did you tell them? I said I'm sad sometimes, but I'm also happy sometimes. Because you and Mommy kept me safe and Grandpa can't hurt me anymore. She looked up at him with those wise, too old eyes. That's okay, right? To be both. That's more than okay. That's exactly right. Healing isn't about never being sad. It's about knowing the sad parts don't have to be all of you. Like how Mommy helps other people now, even though she's still sad sometimes. Exactly like that. Sophie nodded, satisfied. I think when I grow up, I want to help kids too. Like Mommy does. Is that weird? Cameron blinked back tears. No, sweetheart. That's the bravest thing I've ever heard. Okay, good. She yawned. Can you check the closet? Cameron did, making a show of looking thoroughly. No monsters. You're safe. I know, but I like when you check anyway. He kissed her forehead. I'll always check. Every single night. I promise. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Sophie. More than you'll ever know. He left her door cracked open, light from the hallway spilling in, and went downstairs where Madeline was waiting with 2 glasses of wine. She okay? Madeline asked. She's more than okay. She's incredible. Cameron took the wine, clinked his glass against hers. We're raising an incredible kid. We are. Madeline curled up next to him on the couch. I got an email today from one of the other victims, the woman who lives in Colorado. She wants to come speak at the center, share her story, help other survivors know they're not alone. That's amazing. It is. This thing we're building, Cameron, it's bigger than us now. It's going to help hundreds of kids, maybe thousands eventually. Cameron looked around their living room at the photos on the walls. Sophie laughing at the beach, Madeline smiling at their wedding, their little family whole and healing. 6 months ago, he'd stood in a hospital conference room and learned his entire world had shattered. Today, he was watching it rebuild into something stronger. We did it, he said softly. We survived. We fought back. We won. We did. Madeline raised her glass. To survival. To justice. To new beginnings. To family, Cameron added. Always to family. They touched glasses, the sound ringing clear in the quiet house. Outside, the sun set on another day. Tomorrow would bring more healing, more work, more challenges. But tonight, the Riley family was safe, together, and whole. And that was enough. Epilogue. 1 year later. The courtroom was packed for Geneva Chambers' parole hearing. She'd served 18 months of her 4-year sentence, and her lawyers were arguing for early release based on good behavior and cooperation. Cameron sat in the gallery with Madeline, Sophie between them. Sophie had wanted to come, to see her grandmother face justice. Her therapist had approved, saying it might help with closure. Geneva looked older, grayer, diminished. When she took the stand, her voice was barely above a whisper. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, she said. I failed my daughter. I failed my granddaughter. I failed every child my husband hurt by staying silent. No amount of prison time will change that. The parole board asked questions. Geneva answered honestly, without excuses. She'd enrolled in therapy, joined support groups for families of abusers, started writing letters to her victims. Letters she never sent, but her therapist said helped her process her guilt. When it was time for victim statements, Madeline stood. My mother chose her comfort over my safety, over my daughter's safety, over countless children's safety. She doesn't deserve parole. She deserves to serve every single day of her sentence and more. Sophie tugged Cameron's sleeve. I want to say something. Are you sure? Cameron asked. Sophie nodded. She stood, and the room went quiet. My grandma should stay in prison, Sophie said clearly. Not because I'm mad at her anymore. I am sometimes, but not right now. She should stay because she needs to learn that what she did was really, really wrong. And if she gets out too early, she might not learn. The parole board members looked at each other. The chairman cleared his throat. Thank you, young lady. That's very wise. The decision came quickly, parole denied. Geneva would serve her full sentence. As I left the courthouse, Sophie was quiet. Finally, she said, Do you think Grandma will ever be sorry enough? I don't know, Cameron said honestly. But that's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to keep healing, keep growing, keep helping others. The rest is up to her. Okay. Sophie took both her parents' hands, swinging between them. Can we get ice cream? Madeline laughed, the sound full and genuine. Yes, we can definitely get ice cream. They walked into the sunshine together, a family that had faced the worst and survived. A family that had chosen healing over bitterness, justice over revenge, and love over everything else. The road ahead was still long. There would be hard days, setbacks, moments when the trauma resurfaced, but they would face it together, because that's what families did. And the Rileys were nothing if not fighters. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.